The Jets play the Cleveland Browns this Sunday. Let's get the Cleveland perspective. Today I join Garrett Bush and Jeff Lloyd of Locked On Browns. It's crossover Thursday. Jeff Lloyd will lead us back in today on the Locked On Jets podcast.
You are Locked On Jets, your daily New York Jets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And welcome back. Thursday on the Locked On NFL Network. You all know what that means. Crossover Thursday, here to get you all prepped for Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Cleveland Browns, New York Jets. Crossover Thursday, Locked On Browns, Locked On Jets. Your host from the Locked On Browns podcast, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. Mr. Garrett Bush, Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Of course, co-host of the Locked On Browns podcast, at GBush91. And one of the rarest to the rare, as far as social media is concerned, Mr. John Buchko, no at needed, host of Locked On Jets. John has been here for a while. We're going to sit down today. We're going to break it down. Interesting game here that we're going to get to this week. The Jets obviously undermanned right now. If any team can be sympathetic and understanding what it's like to, go through ebbs and flows of missing key parts to a team, it's certainly the Cleveland Browns. So we're going to sit down here today, giving some general thoughts on both teams, some key matchups headed into Sunday's affair at First Energy in Cleveland, Ohio. Some score predictions, some thoughts here. Again, crossover Thursday. We appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns, Locked On Jets our first listen every single day. Crossover Thursday is presented to you by our friends at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is so much fun and it's easy to play. No competing with other players, just you versus the projections available. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than the PrizePicks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. It can literally take less than 60 seconds to enter. It is that easy. We love PrizePicks, and we know you will too. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code LOCKEDON, all caps, no space. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. As I said, we're going to get into it here. We're going to kick it right off the bat. I'm going to start with John here. John, as everybody knows here, I'm in New Jersey, so obviously I see a lot of the Jets news locally. One thing I'm noticing is, I think Robert Saleh, of course, he's unhappy. His team did not win on Sunday. But I think everybody's in such a rush to judge this New York Jets team. And Robert Saleh's kind of out there like, guys, the most important position in the entire sport. My guy's not here yet. We didn't do everything we did this offseason for Joe Flacco. So I can understand Robert Saleh being a little bit hot under the collar here as, the Jets are transitioning here. Maybe the last week with Joe Flacco, we'll see the way it goes as Zach Wilson is slowly starting to participate a little bit in practice, but also looking at this matchup, maybe a wise move that Zach Wilson is not going to go this week.
Well, guys, it's always great to get together with you. The cursed franchises of the AFC meeting once again.
John, as we always said, it's homecoming. It always seems Jets Browns find somebody to play every season.
How many times have we done this, Jeff? And we say one of these years it could be the AFC Championship game, and maybe we'll both be gray and old, but at some point it'll be Jets Browns of the AFC Championship game. Probably not this year, at least for the Jets. I think you're right, and I think part of it's the residue of playing in New York. When you're the coach of a team that's not winning, there's always going to be criticism. You always got to deal with and fans are always going to be unhappy. And I think Saleh is not a guy who's in his year plus with the Jets has been great at dealing with the media. I think it's always difficult when he made a comment this week that he's keeping receipts on the people who doubt them. And I think a lot of fans took it as though he was talking about the fans. And I think when you're perceived as going after the fans, you're never going to win the battle. But at the end of the day, you know what? When you lose games, you just don't look good. And I've said this on Locked On Jets. I feel like if you lose, no matter what you say, people aren't going to be happy. No matter what, because I've seen a lot of losing through the years with the Jets. I've seen coaches take every different approach. I've seen coaches try and keep it to cliches. I've seen coaches, show a little bit more personality. Nobody's ever happy when you lose, but those same traits, when you win, people tend to love you for it. So I think it's tough to judge Robert Saleh right now. Last year, he did not have much of a team. Like you said, Jeff, I mean, he's playing Joe Flacco. And listen, Joe Flacco had you guys saw him a lot in the AFC North. way back when he was a solid quarterback. Was he elite? We'll leave that up to the audience to decide. Big throwback, but he's not playing with a full team right now. Now, if we get to later in the year and they have Zach Wilson and Zach Wilson's not developing and the Jets are still losing and they're having another rough year, then I think it'll be fair to say, is Robert Saleh the right guy for the job? But right now, I agree with you. I think it's just tough. The Jets are in a rough spot right now with their quarterback situation. And you look across the leagues, you can win with a backup quarterback. I know the Browns won last Sunday with their backup quarterback, but it's not easy to do, especially when you got a roster full of new players like the Jets have. And I guess that leads me to my question for you guys. We obviously have Jacoby Brissett playing in this game for the Browns. What are the expectations for him as he runs this team in the early part of the season?
Well, don't mess it up too much. I think when you look back at what we did and what we did well against the Carolina Panthers, it was a run game. The run game kept us in the game. Nick Chubb was tremendous. And I think Kevin Stefanski did a good job of mixing in Kareem Hunt. But for Jacoby Brissett, I think a lot of fans some fans are a little, they think he's a little worse than he really is. Some people think he's a little better than he is. Sometimes, where we go at is guys think that, you're being negative because you're saying Jacoby Brissett is an average quarterback and he's a backup. Well, that's the reality of it. And what you want your backup to do is there were 4 or 5 throws that he could have probably made that he should have hit. All we need him to do is hit 2 of those. If he can hit 1 or 2 of those, that changes the complexion of the game. That keeps people off the line of scrimmage, and it continues to let you do what you want to do, which is run the football and lean towards your defense. So I think Jacoby Brissett is he didn't play in the preseason. I think he was a little rusty. I would have played him more. Me and Jeff talked about it a lot on the Locked On Brown podcast. That wasn't the case. Coach Stefanski wanted to make sure that he was upright and that he would be able to go into the game healthy. So I think you see a little rust. And you saw a lot of rust from a lot of quarterbacks around the league. Needless to say, but at the end of the day, I think what you want from Jacoby Brissett is to be steady, don't turn the football over, and make sure you can get points on the board when you can.
There's no question. There was a lot of stuff, and it looked like he was just playing at a slower speed, with Jacoby Brissett. And look, he's not the most athletic guy in the world, a little bit taller. There were things. And, one of the things on top of what Garrett is saying here, as far as, don't mess it up, you got to make the easy throws. You have to make the easy throws. And there were simple, easy throws he left on the field. And, when you're going with your number 2, those are things you can't get into. You just can't get into that instance. And unfortunately, he did, which made the game probably closer than it should have. And of course, maybe a couple of key missed assignments and coverage made it a game that is. But you can't just be I'm not going to make mistakes. You got to do some positive things as well. And I think that was one of the difficult things that Jacoby basically had a hard time with. And I do think some of it was with rust. I do just not enough time. And it's not like he's been here for years and now is his time to get a little run here as the backup quarterback. Just, it was a difficult situation for the Browns to handle it because keep in mind all summer it was, Deshaun looks like maybe it's 6 games. If that was the case, he didn't really care what Jacoby Brissett did in those 6 games. You were getting Deshaun Watson for 11. Once it became an 11-game suspension, obviously that switched things up tremendously and kind of put the Browns and Jacoby Brissett a little bit behind the 8 ball. We're going to get here. There's some key matchups here this week, and I'm looking forward to it. I know there's a lot of Browns fans who are also Ohio State fans. I know there is one certain player they are looking forward to see play this weekend. So get to that. John Buchko, Garrett, Jeff, Lloyd, your latest crossover Thursday. Locked On Browns, Locked On Jets. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selections of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the United States, Canada, and the UK. Book a spacious SUV or minivan for a family road trip. Get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or a holiday. Find affordable economy cars if you're on a budget and just need to get from A to B. Test drive that new electric vehicle you've had your eye on to see if it truly fits your everyday life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Ditch boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com.
Well, welcome back. NFL crossover. We got the New York Jets mixed with the Cleveland Browns. We were coming in here, and this is going to be a great game. And matter of fact, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Jets. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Browns. And make sure you make each one of these podcasts your first listen wherever you are, whether you're in the New York tri-state area or if you're in the great state of Ohio and Cleveland and you're a Browns fan all around the country. One of the matchups that I'll tell you what I'm interested in, and I think – when your teams are not doing well, when you have a lot of guys out, one of the things that you want to do is you want to look to the positives. One of the positives that I look at is the offensive line for the Cleveland Browns, but the defensive line, specifically for the New York Jets, Quinnen Williams, a guy who had a Pro Football Focus grade of a 92.1. His pass rush grade was a 91.9. He had 3 hurries. He actually had a batted down pass as well. Overall, his run defense was a 72.3. So, that young guy out of Alabama, he really did his thing. I think that's going to be a matchup that I want to see if the Cleveland Browns want to move the ball. Him in the middle against Ethan Posey and some of the guys. Jedrick Wills struggled a little bit at the left tackle position. He struggled. We talked to John Costco, Pro Football Focus. He was one of those guys. So from the standpoint of the Jets, are you guys really excited about this young guy? And is this one of the bright spots that you can look at along with Sauce Gardner as one of the bright parts of the future that could probably, show up really well in this game?
It depends on who you ask. I think there are lots of Jets fans who are a little disappointed in Quinnen Williams because, as you pointed out, he played pretty well in week 1, but you look at the numbers really weren't that great. Now, I personally, I don't care about like how your tackle numbers. I care about how you're producing, especially when you're playing in the middle of the line. Are you disrupting the play? Are you winning your assignments? And I think Quinnen Williams did that well. Now, you look at Quinnen Williams through his first couple of years in the NFL. Jets drafted him 3rd overall. I think there were lots of Jets fans who were looking for him to be an all-pro type of guy. And he's not that. He's a guy who, his second year, he was a borderline Pro Bowler, he was into December. He was playing really well. Then he got hurt, missed the last couple of games. That may have cost him a Pro Bowl spot. He's a very good player. To me, he's part of the solution. I think there are some Jets fans who are a little bit frustrated, though, that he's maybe not a little bit better, that he's not in that like all pro contention, because I think when the Jets drafted him, and part of this goes into the psychology of the Jets fan base, the Jets have spent a lot of high first round picks on interior defensive linemen in the last 10, 11 years. And they've been okay, but none of them have been like really superstars. And I think that the perception is, oh, here we go. Another defensive lineman is going to be good for a couple of years. Then we're going to trade him. I don't think it's fair to Quinnen Williams. I think Quinnen Williams is part of the solution. I'd like to see him get a contract, but I think that he's a really important building block for the Jets going forward. And, I'll go to the other side of the ball, the other team's defensive line. I'll tell you a matchup that scares me. And I have nightmares from a game the Jets and Browns played week 2, 3 years ago, Myles Garrett. And that was a game when Adam Gase left Kelvin Beachum one-on-one with Myles Garrett all night. You guys probably loved it because Myles Garrett destroyed the Jets that night. And this Jets tackle position, there are some question marks there. I got to tell you, Mekhi Becton got injured in training camp. The Jets signed Dwayne Brown. I still can't figure out when Dwayne Brown had time to get injured, but somehow Dwayne Brown got injured prior to the start of the season, which means 4th round pick Max Mitchell's starting at right tackle for the Jets. And it's funny because you watch the game live on Sunday. Max Mitchell did not stand out as like a guy who was a problem, but then reviewing the film, I don't think he had that strong of a game. And it's kind of a double whammy because last year George Fant had a good season at left tackle, but the Jets sent him a lot of help. And because now they're playing this rookie 4th rounder, they have to send Max Mitchell a lot of help. It means George Fant has less help, and he was not very good in week 1 with lining up against Baltimore's edge rusher. So I got to tell you guys, that's a matchup that scares me from a Jets perspective.
Well, here's the thing, and Myles Garrett's first career sack, came many, many moons ago, 2017, against the New York Jets. Myles Garrett, if he accumulates 1.5 sacks on Sunday, will now be the Cleveland Browns' all-time leader in sacks, and he will set a number that will probably never, ever be approached again. So yeah, and that's one for me. And the thing is, you're talking about Max Mitchell here. It's like, well, okay, kid. Well, you had a nice, go of it. You got your feet wet. Here's Jadeveon Clowney. Yeah, he's not exactly Myles Garrett, but about as close athletically and intelligent. And even if you win against Jadeveon Clowney, he is smart enough that he's going to get his hands in the air and most likely disrupt the pass that way. So, I mean, here's Max Mitchell with a nice, smooth rookie year, a bunch of veterans around. I'm going to get to pick a lot of brains. Wait a minute, I'm starting week 1. Wait, now I'm starting week 2. But what I want to talk about, with that, I mean, look, it's going to be a really, really tough matchup. And the Browns have other guys, they have other DNs are built the same way. So I mean, they can just keep funneling these guys at you all day long. So that is certainly one, to watch here. And Joe Flacco, mobility was never his thing. So imagine what Joe Flacco is moving around like now. One other one I want to get to you with, John, is I'd be remiss. I wouldn't be doing my job with all these Ohio fans. The wide receiver room, Corey Davis, obviously Garrett Wilson, Elijah Mora, who was a player I absolutely loved coming out of Ole Miss. And then there's even Braxton Berrios, and I think Braxton Berrios lives off the fact that people will talk about other people first. I think that's like his fuel, his motivation, because then he goes out there and just seems to play even harder. And the Browns, and Garrett and I on Locked On Browns this week, we did have former Ohio State defensive back Tyvis Powell. He was an NFL guy. Come on. Browns had some coverage lapses Sunday in Carolina, which made that a game that it should have never have been. And it does concern me because I think the Jets 1 through 4 here might bring a better 1 through 4 wide receiver unit to the table than Carolina did on Sunday.
I think it's a solid group. I don't know that there's that number one guy, that go-to guy you run the passing game through. Now, it could be Elijah Moore. I think eventually it could be Garrett Wilson. I never want to put high expectations on a rookie, though. But I got to say, Garrett Wilson looked really good in his debut. He was kind of rotating in and out, but I'll tell you, there was one play that was spectacular. It was a third down play. It was kind of a broken play. He broke his route, came back to the ball, caught it about 8 to 10 yards short of the sticks, made like 3 guys miss, and almost came within a half yard of picking up the first down. I mean, it's a sign of things to come. It's a really exciting, really exciting guy to watch. I think that these are really solid receivers the Jets have. The question is whether Flacco could get the ball, because when I watched the film, one thing that became clear to me is Flacco, it doesn't seem like he trusts his arm anymore. And unless it was a wide open window, he was looking to check the ball down. I got to tell you, there were some plays where he's dropping back. He's got his eye on the running back the whole time. And he's just going to dump it off to Michael Carter or Breece Hall. And that could produce some results for the Jets, because both of those guys could be dynamic players in space. But I agree with you guys. I think that there are some potential matchups that could favor the Jets at the receiver position this year. The question is whether Flacco could deliver the ball. And I'll tell you guys, while we're talking receivers, a matchup I'm looking forward to, and it's partially from a Jets perspective, it's kind of a barometer matchup. Amari Cooper versus Sauce Gardner. Sauce Gardner had a really good week 1. He gave up nothing in preseason. In fact, I don't even think he was thrown at in preseason. I think this is a really interesting matchup because Amari Cooper brings such professional route running. He's very smart receiver. If Sauce Gardner holds up against Amari Cooper, I think Jets fans will be very excited, because I think it's a sign he'll be something special. But it is a tricky matchup for a rookie going up against a guy who runs routes as nuanced as Cooper does.
Yeah, I thought Sauce Gardner played a really great game. 56 total snaps. He was only targeted. Targeted 3 times. Only one reception for 8 yards. I mean, that's great production from a guy out of Cincinnati. And I'll tell you what, he was, to me, I mean, he didn't give up a touchdown his whole life in Cincinnati. So when you think about what he's able to do, I like his size. He's going to have a good matchup in a barometer against Amari Cooper, because Amari Cooper, if we could have had Jacoby Brissett get him the ball, he was open a few times for big plays. He's one of the best route runners we have in this league, and his footwork was on display against Carolina in week 1. I think that's a really good, intriguing matchup. I like that one out there. And, I'll be anxious to see how many times they allow Jacoby Brissett to put the ball up, right? I think the sweet spot for him is somewhere around 25, 27. I wouldn't expect a 34, 35. That's a recipe for disaster, because if he's throwing the ball that much, that means we're not running the ball. We're not getting the production we want for the ground game. So for me, I'm really interested in that position, that matchup. I think it's going to be a good one. And just for the record, I think Sauce Gardner is going to be one of the one of the better corners in this league in terms of what he can do. He footwork, athleticism, size. He fits right into what what you want in the corner right now when you want to get to shut people down, especially as much as they pass the ball in the AFC.
And I think the craziest thing is it almost kind of seems like the reputation carried to the NFL. And it's not like he came from Alabama or the SEC, because nobody's really they're already nervous of him. And, normally, what you would just say, rookie corner, prove it. And it doesn't really seem to be the case just yet. I mean, it seems like his reputation carried over to the NFL as he came here. And, we'll see how it works with Buffalo Wild Wings as they, invent the sauce here in New Jersey. We're going to be honest, Buffalo Wild Wings needs all the help they can get, so hopefully they can smoke one out of the park here with the
I actually had Sauce Gardner on Locked On Jets a few weeks back to talk about Sauce, and I had it for the game, and I got to be maybe I shouldn't say anything because I thought it was kind of mediocre. But Sauce Gardner's corner, that's a
you got to do some justice. You got to do some justice for Sauce Gardner, guys. Come on now, you got to do some justice.
What happened to B-Dubs, man? That used to be the go-to.
It was, but like everything, it either runs it, either if you don't adapt, you kind of just stay where you're at. We're going to get to here. We're going to do some game predictions here. We're going to do some final thoughts. Crossover Thursday, Locked On Jets, Locked On Browns, Jeff Lloyd, John Buchko, Garrett Bush, breaking it down for you here. Big one here. Jets Browns are 1-0, looking to go 2-0 as they host the Steelers that Thursday night. Jets 1-1, maybe start to show a little positivity here. Then maybe Zach Wilson comes into it. Continue all this and more here on Crossover Thursday. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week games. BetOnline is also your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. The fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts.
Welcome back to Locked On NFL Crossover Thursday. We got the Jets this week. Jets, Locked On Jets, Locked On Browns. And we're going to get to the predictions, guys. Let's jump right off into it. Predictions for this game. You got the Browns who are looking to go 2-0. I think they haven't been 2-0 since like Truman was in office or something. And then we have the Jets that are looking to get on the board here. I think if the Jets can it'll be a big coup for the Jets to get a win in Cleveland. I think you guys get the unveiling of the new elf in the middle of the field. So we don't know if that's going to be lucky or good. Your thoughts on predictions. And can the Jets come out of here with an upset? Because I think the Browns are favored by 6 points. Can they get enough to go to win in Cleveland?
I was reading about that elf. That was like one of the funniest things I've read all week. I think they can. I think that this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think both teams have question marks at the quarterback position right now in their passing games. So it's going to come down to, I think the running backs are going to be featured in this game a lot. Both teams have, the Browns have a proven running back duo in Chubb and Hunt. The Jets have a young running back duo with a lot of potential, Michael Carter and Breece Hall. I think the path to victory for the Jets is those two guys have a big game for them. And I think the Jets may need to dial up some gadget plays. I don't have a lot of faith in Flacco right now. And as I said, I'm not sure he's going to be willing to push the ball down the field. Last year, Mike LaFleur, the offensive coordinator, was very creative. He was able to dial up some gadget plays that ended up resulting in some nice gains for the Jets. I think they'll need to do that. I think these backs are going to need to break big plays. Maybe it'll be a Garrett Wilson or Elijah Moore taking a screen a long way. The Jets also played pretty good defense last week. So, if they can get a turnover, and I think, this game could come down to which quarterback avoids the big mistake. And for all of my criticisms of Flacco, he threw one interception last week, and it wasn't really his fault. It was a play where tight end Lawrence Cager fell down. I'm concerned in what could be a tight game, special teams for the Jets, because their punting was shaky last week. And Greg Zuerlein, the kicker, missed a field goal and an extra point. So special teams play could be an issue for the Jets. I don't know. I have my head telling me the Browns probably win this game. Browns at home. Browns are a more talented team. My heart's telling me the Jets have a shot in this game. So I guess for my listener base, I know I picked the Ravens last week. I don't think I can face my listeners if I pick against the Jets again. So I'll say that somehow the Jets pull the upset. We'll say Breece Hall, Michael Carter both have big games. Jets avoid the mistakes and somehow come out with a victory. How about that?
We'll take that, man. Jeff, your thoughts?
I'm going to go with this here. I think the first thing, I agree kind of what John is saying, because look, Robert Saleh is going to say, if I'm going to lose, it's not going to be to Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I really, truly believe the Jets are going to sell out to stop the run. I think, though, Joe Wood's going to be the same theory. If I'm going to lose, it's going to be because that old guy over there beat me. So they're going to sell out against the run. So what does that mean? Somebody somewhere, it's going to be about a missed tackle. It's going to be about a running back juking somebody. I think the Browns are going to win this. Look, Browns home openers are always off the chart because nobody talked themselves into possibility of this year being the year like Cleveland Browns fans, and that's what makes them what they are. They will go into the home opener thinking that this is their year. So this place, and look, they are geeked about this elf. I cannot even deny how fired up people are about this damn elf being at the 50-yard line. And look, I need to see it firsthand because it better be the baddest looking elf that ever existed. But this is the route they went. But I think that's what it's going to come down to. And the other thing is, look, Jacoby Brissett, Joe Flacco. If you said he was looking at dink and dunk all last week, that ain't going to work because Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Anthony Walker, they are going to be all over these backs out of the backfield. Jacoby Brissett, 18 of 34. It's not going to cut it. The Browns do have a soft schedule early, but once you start getting to these better teams that are coming down the road, and Jacoby Brissett, he can't step out. He's got to be the quarterback for these games. Deshaun Watson's not going to be here for that. He needs to play at a quicker pace. He needs to get through his read progression faster. And he also needs to understand that he has Amari Cooper for a reason. And it's not to maybe draw a penalty and make things easier. Get the ball, Amari Cooper. Get them to David Njoku. These are two prime moves the Browns made in the offseason. You need to get them involved. I think the Browns are going to win. I feel bad for the Jets right now because they're not the team that they think they are. And there's no way for the Jets to truly judge who they are until Zach Wilson gets back under center. And it is just that simple. And, look, the Browns were matching up with Joe Flacco 3 and 4 years ago as he was ending his career with the Ravens. So the fact that we're going for full circle here and facing Joe Flacco again, I just think the fact that it's on the road, the place is going to be loud as heck. And, they'll continue to feed Chubb and Hunt. And eventually, they're going to get theirs. I do agree maybe on the low scoring aspect, maybe and I never want to go traditional, 19-16, 19-14, some sort of oddball. But yeah, I believe Cleveland's going to be ending up 2-0 and facing what's going to look like a really, really big matchup on Thursday Night Football as the Steelers come to town.
Well, I got the easy job here. I've listened to what both of you said. I could just take the best of both worlds and just sink it into my own take, and I look great. But I'll take what you guys said, and I'll say this. I think this game boils down to this. Cleveland Browns offense will be, we have Nick Chubb. We're just going to see how many times we can run it and if you could tackle him. If you could tackle him 3-4 times in a row, it'll be a low-scoring affair. However, if they do not tackle him, it's going to be a long day. The Jets can't let him get 147 yards. If the Jets want to win, they need to stop the Cleveland Browns run game on the first 2 downs and make Jacoby Brissett a passer. 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 7.5. That's where you want to be because then you get the opportunity to take play action out of the mix. If you're the Cleveland Browns, it's the same kind of story, but it's on the opposite side of the football. You want to know big plays. The one thing that Cleveland Browns are susceptible to is miscommunication in the back end. They've done it against the Kansas City Chiefs. They've done it early in this season. And one thing that you have Garrett Wilson. You got guys on the other side of the football that can take it to the house if you want to mess up. I like what they're going to do. I like some of the things. And Joe Flacco, like you said, he threw the ball a lot last week and didn't have that many turnovers. The Browns need to get turnovers, score on defense. I think they do get a turnover or 2 on defense. I think they run the ball efficiently. I think Nick Chubb breaks a long one. And I think late Kate York kicks a couple extra field goals to make it look a little worse than it was. I got the Browns winning this game 30-17.
You know,
30.
when you said you were taking the middle ground, I thought you were going to pick a tie.
Exactly.
Nah, you can't fence ride over here. No ties, no ties.
Well, and to get to what Garrett's point, and just one thing, I think a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, well the Browns almost lost it," but Garrett and I feel pretty confident that the way that game ended for the Browns on Sunday did them more good than people think, because this team, obviously, they're in a tough spot right here. Can we tread water till Deshaun Watson gets back? Can we? It's a big question. We don't know. And then during that game, it looked like, all right, this is good. This is a team that maybe can do what they need to do for this time. Oh, wait, now it's not. But then they were able to amp it up and close it out like they did. You know, there's a lot of guys in this locker room, who are really solid football players, and they did not appreciate that 99.9% of any coverage Cleveland Browns related wise over the past 60, 70, 80, 90 days was based on a quarterback who had never taken a snap for them. So these guys are aggravated. They're agitated that the coverage was not about them, and they're very good players. It's a really good locker room, one player notwithstanding. I don't know if they're going to go out there and drop 30. The team's ready to drop 30 on any bet, but we'll see. It's going to be an exciting one. There is no question about it. Jets-Browns, it's been a rivalry for years now. Certainly not in the same division, but they seem to find a way to cross paths every season. So 1 o'clock, First Energy Stadium. Weather looks like it's going to be a nice looking fall Sunday, low 80s. 1 o'clock start at First Energy. If you got nice weather in First Energy, you don't really have to worry about the wind. Everybody knows how that drill works. Once those temperatures drops, that's when you worry about the wind factor. He is John Puchko. Also, he is the host of the Locked On Jets podcast. Make sure you follow and subscribe, whether it is on your favorite podcast platform, of course, on YouTube. Garrett Bush at GBush91, also part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Myself, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd.
That's all for today's episode. This has been the Locked On Jets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day is our motto. If you enjoy the show, hit the subscribe button where you're watching or listening. You'll get notifications as new episodes are posted. You'll never miss an episode. If you're listening on a podcast source, please give the show a 5-star review. And if you're watching on YouTube, please give this episode a big thumbs up. Both of these help out the channel and help other Jets fans find the podcast. Have a great Thursday, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about Jets-Browns.